Hey, I'd say we're overdue for some DAP action. What say you? This is Dissecting a Photo. But you know, I normally like to have the photo printed out in front of me because I'm a tangible kind of guy. And there's a new paper I've been wanting to try for a little while. I think this will be the perfect opportunity. The paper is Ilford's Fine Art Smooth Pearl, not to be confused with their regular Smooth Pearl. And you may have noticed I've been doing a lot more printing on Ilford paper lately. There's a good reason for that. They sent me a bunch of free paper. But it's at this point I'm happy to announce I'm entering into somewhat of an informal partnership with Ilford and their inkjet papers. But as a YouTuber who's prided himself over the years on not doing brand partnerships or even sponsored videos, let me just put your mind at ease. Nothing's gonna change around here. You know, I'm still the same old Nicky C. I'm not gonna become some corporate shill pushing product on you don't need just so I can make a quick buck. That's not me. I don't know what this partnership is gonna look like yet. It's still in its formative stages, but the reason I'm going with Ilford is twofold. The product and the people. The products are very good. All the samples they've sent me, I've loved, and they have a very extensive product line. A lot of interesting variety of papers. But the second being the people. I met with the folks at Ilford. Not only are they passionate about printing and quality paper, but they told me from the get-go, we don't want you to compromise your values. We don't want you to lose trust with your viewers. So please continue using other people's papers. We just like you to use ours sometimes too. And that was music to my ears. So again, I don't know what this partnership is going to look like in the long run, but I'm going to try and leverage it into something valuable for you, or at least my students, maybe discounts on papers, or I'll see what I can get out of them. But you're going to see me using Ilford papers quite a bit going forward. All right, let's get on with the video. Well, it's that magical time of year again, when my client photo shoots all but dry up. And yet the bills just keep coming. On that topic, I'm running a holiday sale on my website right now. 20% off everything. So if you've had your eye on the light metering course, the large format course, the extended play, or even a print, now's the time to take advantage of these rock bottom prices. Just head over to nickcarverphoto.com, use the promo code there. But on to the photo. Starting with the paper. So if you follow my channel, you know how I feel about reflections on my prints. I hate them. So I tend to shy away from glossy papers, and I end up printing everything on matte finish, fine art, fiber-based papers. So like cotton rag, which are beautiful, but I have to admit that sometimes they make the photo look a little flat. It's just the nature of matte finish. They just don't have that richness that glossy finish papers do. So lately I've been trying to find a paper that kind of strikes a happy balance between the richness of a glossy print, but the lack of distracting reflections of a matte finish print. A great option for that is Baryta papers. Baryta papers come in a variety of gloss levels, but the standard Baryta is pretty much what I'm talking about. Just a little bit of sheen. This is not a Baryta paper, but I must say, it's Baryta E. Kind of looks like a Baryta paper. It's got that real subtle texture of a fine art fiber-based paper, gives it some depth, which is nice. But it does indeed have just a tiny bit of gloss to it. Not enough to be distracting, but enough to give the photo a little more punch. Now onto the photo itself. So this is the first previously Taco Bell. Not the first Taco Bell. We'll talk about that building a little bit later on. This is the first previously Taco Bell, which means it's just the first photo I took in this whole series. And I decided to kick off the project with this location for a couple reasons. One, it's easy to get to. It's close to me. It's in Tustin, California. I spent a lot of time in Tustin. My office, my studio, my learning center, whatever you want to call it, that I had for about 9 years, that was in Tustin. And Tustin is next door to my hometown of Irvine, where I was born and raised. Now we're going to be covering some history of Taco Bell in this video, and we're going to see that Taco Bell also has pretty close ties to Irvine and Tustin, but easy to get to. The bigger reason that I chose this location to start the project is this is just a perfect specimen of these old Taco Bell buildings. It's in excellent shape, it's not all graffitied up, still has the arched parapet up top, the opening where the bell used to hang. It's a nice open lot, so the building's not crowded by a bunch of other buildings and a bunch of modern cars and things that would really ruin the scene. This was just the perfect way to start this photo project. And when I photographed it, little did I know just how perfect it was. Because later on, I found out some facts about this building I'm going to share with you that just make it that much better. So if this was the first photo that I shot in the project, it means I must have shot it kind of a while ago. I shot it on July 17th, 2022 at about 3:30 to 4 p.m. So the dead of summer, 3 years ago. So why are we looking at such an old photo for this dissecting a photo video? Well, because this isn't really the photo I want to share with you today. This is the new version. I shot this about a month ago, in October. And I know, it's like the exact same photo. I didn't reshoot it because I didn't like the composition. I actually really liked the original. I went back and shot it mainly for this one bush, hedge, tree thing. When I saw that it had grown up so big and was now engulfing the building, I knew I just had to go back and reshoot it. And then also the planter in the front here has since been busted up. Maybe it got hit by a car, I don't know. But that bit of deterioration and the plant overtaking the building, it's just, those little details, man, are perfect. It really adds to the whole previously idea of this project. So I actually coincidentally shot this at about the same time of day, about 4 p.m. But because it was autumn instead of summer, you can see how much different the light is. Much longer shadows coming in at a very different angle. And that's because 4 p.m. in October would be like shooting 2 hours later in the summer. It'd be like shooting at 6 p.m. in summer. So you get much more of that late afternoon light. So the composition's nearly identical, but there are some slight differences that I'll point out here. But both photos, of course, I shot with my Shenhao 6x17. I used my Nikkor 90mm lens, my widest angle. I did use the center ND filter to eliminate the vignette on that wide angle lens, and both were shot on Kodak Portra 160. For both photos, I stood in basically the same spot, which was on a very narrow center divider on Newport Avenue. So pretty tight quarters to take the picture. I, of course, opted to wear my high visibility vest because, well, I'm kind of nervous out there taking my pictures, and that high-vis vest is like a nice little invisibility cloak. I feel like everybody just leaves me alone so I can focus on my subject. Now, the minor differences between these two compositions. You'll notice in the first one, I have this sign off to the right, which is not there in the second one. The sign is still there. They didn't remove it or anything. I kicked it out of the composition by taking a few steps to the left. I felt that sign was kind of distracting. In hindsight, now that I've seen both, I don't think that was necessary. And there were some downsides that came with shifting to the left, which I'll point out here in just a sec. But that sign, I don't know, it's not distracting now that I see them side by side. In fact, one might argue it adds a little something to the right side of the composition. But by shifting to the left, by moving to the left, that of course put the building off center, and I wanted it centered. That's an easy fix on a view camera though, as I've covered in previous videos. To get it back to the center, you just have to square up the camera to the building. So make sure the back of the camera is parallel with the front of the building. And then just shift the lens one direction or shift the film plane the other direction. But what happened by moving over to the left here is, number one, you'll see that the planter in the foreground is not really centered with the building anymore. And that's because I'm not centered with the building anymore. But the other thing that happened is this bus stop sign, you'll see shifted over to the right, more in front of the building. I knew that was happening, but I thought, whatever, it'll be fine. It was blocking the building either way. This is just blocking it in a different spot. So with all that in mind, I have to say, I kind of wish I didn't move over to the left for the second version. Overall, I just think it's better framing on that first one. I could go back a third time, but I mean, I'm crazy, but I don't know if I'm that crazy. Smash cut to me going back a third time. That'd be pretty funny. Now, this specific location in Tustin, I don't know when exactly it opened, but a resource online said around 1970, and then it closed in 2013. This style of Taco Bell building is not the very first style. The very first Taco Bell building looked similar, but the arches were a little more squared off. The building was a little smaller. So not exactly the same, but this mission style Taco Bell building, this taco stand mission style building, is very early on in Taco Bell's history. It was introduced in the early 1960s. The architect who designed this whole style, his name was Robert L. McKay. So an interesting thing about McKay is he designed these buildings and then closed down his architecture firm. He quit architecture. I made the best building. I'm done. He quit his architecture firm and joined Taco Bell. So he was one of the early guys on the corporate structure for Taco Bell as they were going through this immense growth at the time. And the more interesting thing about Robert McKay as it pertains to this specific photo, I found an article talking about his passing. So he passed in 2017 at the age of 86 in Tustin, California. The first photo to kick off this project is of a location where the architect who designed it lived. I think that adds just something a little extra to the photo. Now, the other fun fact about this specific location is you may have seen this before. If you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Quentin Tarantino, you've seen this building. They did this building up as a fully functioning 1970 period correct Taco Bell. They came in, they put up the original signage. I'm sure they had to manufacture them newly, the set design company. They came in June 2018 and did this. It was a ton of work. They had to put in landscaping, bring in actors, put them in period correct clothes, park a bunch of 1970s cars in front of it. They did so much work to make this building look like an operating 1970s Taco Bell. This was on screen for a grand total of 2.8 seconds. That's it. So the amount of money and effort that went into a 2.8 second clip on a Tarantino movie is insane. But you know, when you're Tarantino, you get that kind of pull in the biz. You can make stuff happen. I'm gonna link in the description of this video a YouTube clip that shows that scene. So if you wanna take a look at it, don't blink. You'll miss it, 2.8 seconds. So Taco Bell now, of course, is huge. Over 8,500 locations worldwide. The vast majority are in the US, 8,100 locations, or a little bit over. But of course, Taco Bell started with one location and one founder. Now, I don't know if you knew this. I had no idea until like earlier this week, but the bell in Taco Bell is not like ringy ding ding bell. I know that's in the logo now, but that's not where that comes from. That comes from the founder, Glenn Bell. It's his last name. So if I had founded Taco Bell, we'd all be going to Taco Carver to get diarrhea. So Glenn Bell comes back from World War II and he needs to make some money. He's got to set up a career, set up his life because he's going to have kids, start a family and all that. He decides he's going to open a hamburger joint in San Bernardino, California. Now, San Bernardino is a little bit inland of me, more towards the desert, maybe about 45-hour drive. And he opens up Bell's Hamburgers, selling hamburgers and hot dogs. Now, for all you trivia fans out there, can you think of another fast food joint founded in San Bernardino, California, right around that time? None other than McDonald's. In fact, there's a good movie called The Founder with Michael Keaton that's worth watching. It gives the whole history of McDonald's. But that was founded in San Bernardino, right up the street from him. So Glenn Bell opens Bell's Hamburgers, and, you know, it's kind of hard to compete with McDonald's up the street. So he decides he needs to innovate a little bit, do something to separate his restaurant. He needs to add some things to the menu. Now, Bell's Burger Joint happened to be across the street from a place called Mitla Cafe. Still there in San Bernardino, California. Mitla Cafe is real, authentic Mexican food. Big Hispanic population in San Bernardino, so great Mexican food out there. So he's across from Mitla Cafe. And Glenn Bell sees their crunchy tacos. And he decides, well, I need those on my menu. So he would operate his restaurant during the day. And then at the end of the day, he would go over to Mitla Cafe and he would buy some crunchy tacos, bring them back to his place and start reverse engineering them. Which is just a little shady, if you ask me. The owners of Mitla Cafe see him doing this. And they're eventually like, we know what you're doing. We know what you're doing. So tell you what, how about you just come back into our kitchen? I'll teach you how to make crunchy tacos. So they did, which is a stand-up move, by the way. What nice owners of Mitla Cafe. Now, funny enough, the Taco Bell website has a little history section, and they touch on this, you know, that he got the idea from Mitla Cafe. And they phrase the owners of Mitla Cafe as like fellow restaurateurs and friends of Glenn Bell. Now, I don't doubt that they were friends. I'm sure they were friendly, at least. You'd have to be to invite someone in to teach them how to make tacos. But I wonder if they would still call him a friend, you know, 20 years later, 30 years later, when they're watching Taco Bell explode in popularity and the millions of dollars coming in. And they're like, we taught him how to make those freaking tacos. But it's just speculation. Who knows? So Glenn Bell creates his own version of the crunchy taco in 1951. And rumor has it, or maybe it's fact, I don't know. But rumor has it that the chili on the chili dogs from his first restaurant, that was the foundation of what would become Taco Bell sauce or Taco Bell ground beef, I'm not sure. Which to me adds up perfectly. Because when you get a taco from Taco Bell and you're looking at the ground beef, it's like, what the hell am I looking at here? Ground beef? Chili? I don't know. So that could very well be true. But then in 1962, it was finally time to hit the big time. So he opened up the first Taco Bell, 1962, in Downey, California. Not very far from me. And I found this quote on the Taco Bell website. This cracked me up. In 1962, Glenn Bell opens his first Taco Bell restaurant in Downey, California, serving what his customers called tacos, which is about the whitest 1960s American thing I've ever heard. I can just imagine a bunch of Southern Californian white people like, I don't know what these tacos are, but they're delicious. I'd love to have another taco. So 1962, Glenn Bell opens his first Taco Bell. So that's actually the first Taco Bell, that one in Downey. And that building has a really interesting story. So Taco Bell calls that location numero uno. Cute. Closed in 1986 and then became other restaurants for a little while, other Mexican food places and stuff. But in 2015, that building was slated to be bulldozed because they were going to redevelop the land. Taco Bell caught wind of that and said, not on my watch. So they decided to save the building. In 2015, they effing moved the building to their corporate headquarters in Irvine and just put it in the parking lot. The back nine of the parking lot, and it just sat there. They just tucked it in the corner. We'll figure out what to do with it later. And I remember when that thing first showed up, because I used to drive by the building all the time when I was living in Irvine. And it just showed up one day, uncovered. And I remember distinctly thinking like, whoa, that's gotta be like the first Taco Bell. And they brought it to their parking lot. That's pretty wild. Now, the whole previously Taco Bell project wasn't even a twinkle in my eye yet. So I wasn't super excited about it, but I remember taking note of it. Eventually they covered it up. And it was just kind of a black box in the back lot there. But a few years ago, a funny thing happened. This really stuck with me. I was driving by, probably to go to the Irvine Spectrum, and suddenly the building was uncovered. The tarps were off, and there was a party going on around it. There was a Ferris wheel and signs and lights and people dancing. It was a big production. It really looked to me like some cult sacrifice to our idol kind of thing, because they were like dancing like in front of that old building and everything in this parking lot, which just, it cracked me up. But I found out just earlier this week, I came across an article, that was Taco Bell's 60th anniversary party in 2022. So, you know, I love that Taco Bell is paying due respect to this building. They're appreciating it. They're making sure it's protected. And as someone who's trying to pay his own due respect to these old buildings, I just love that. Just a few fun Taco Bell facts I want to leave with you before we go. So Glenn Bell's real innovation on this whole thing was the prefabricated crispy taco shell. So what you and I know today, we buy at the grocery store all the time, that pre-made crispy taco shell, that didn't really exist back then. And in fact, that's not really authentic Mexican food, crispy taco shells. Like if you go to an authentic Mexican food place, like luckily we have all over Southern California here, and you order a crispy taco shell, it tends to be they put the meat in a soft shell and then deep fry that bad boy to crisp it up. Oh, it's delicious. It's gonna kill me one day, but it's delicious. So that pre-made crispy taco shell, that was Glenn Bell. And that obviously made, making tacos every day much quicker and easier. Glenn Bell did give credit to Mitla Cafe in his biography, by the way. So I don't know if they ever got a payout. They should have. Some other facts. So one of Glenn Bell's early Taco Bell employees founded Del Taco, a direct competitor of Taco Bell. It's another fast food, Mexican food restaurant. And real popular around here in Southern California. I don't know how far they stretch across the country or globe, but the first location for Del Taco is in Yermo, California, which is a very weird place to open a restaurant. That's out in the middle of nowhere in the high desert on the way to Vegas. So back in the 60s or whenever it opened, that was an even weirder place to put it. But if you watch my channel, you've seen me go to Yermo before. The May and Mojave on location video, the later section of that video, I'm taking pictures in Yermo. Now, I didn't know at the time that the original Del Taco was right behind me, but I wish I had known because I definitely would have photographed it. So I'm gonna have to make my way back out to Yermo to photograph the previously Del Taco out there. So one of his employees founded Del Taco. Another of his employees founded Wiener Schnitzel. Or back then it was known Der Wiener Schnitzel. That was actually Glenn Bell's idea, Wiener Schnitzel, but he was like just busy with Taco Bell. He's like, whatever, employee, here you go, take this idea, run with it. So the employee founded Wiener Schnitzel. Glenn Bell, man, he was a fast food factory. And the last fun fact for you, although this one wasn't that fun for me to be honest, a little disheartening. Taco Bell had an interesting spokesperson in the 1990s. One Johnny Cash. That's right. The Johnny Cash did a commercial or two for Taco Bell. Which I don't know if that's the most badass thing he's ever done or the lamest thing he's ever done. I'm going to go with badass because it is Johnny Cash. But that's it, man. That's everything I want to tell you about Taco Bell today. So quick update before I let you go on the printing and color management course. I am chipping away at it. I'm working on it. I've completed, I think, 24 of the lessons, which is about a little over 3 hours. The course is probably going to be 8 hours or maybe a little bit more, just like my other courses. So I know I keep saying, it'll come then, and it'll come then, and it'll come then, and then comes and it's not then. Sorry, that's just how I roll. I overpromise, and then it takes me longer than I think. But I am chipping away at it. It is coming. It'll get here when it gets here. So I appreciate everyone who's interested in that course. All right, that's it. Happy holidays, folks. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. I hope you have a fun, safe, joyous, happy holiday season. I may see you before Christmas, but I don't know. If not, Merry Christmas. All right, take care.